Okay, we are live. This is awesome, you guys. I'm so excited to bring here today a lady that I literally just met not too long ago who is an amazing individual who really wants to help people for help people gain more insight to how to reach their optimal health and become the best version of themselves. So as you can imagine, we really resonated when we first met because that's my mission too, is to help bring value to you, to help you to feel better about the skin that you're in, the mind that you're in, and everything around. And you really bring you represent all of that combined because you have the psychology part and then you have the biology part. You have, I think you're a certified holistic nutritionist, and then you're currently obtaining your master's in clinical mental health and psychotherapy. Is that right?
Correct. Nail on the head. Yep.
Nail on the head. Woo,
Nail on the head.
All right, girl. So tell us who you are. Tell us why you said yes to coming on to talking about this, and give us a little bit more information.
Yeah. So first of all, thank you so much for having me. This is an honor, and I just love sharing about this topic, or I should say topics in general. My background's pretty vast in that I'm a complete nerd. I've got my undergraduate degree in biology, chemistry, and psychology, and then I went and got my certified holistic nutritionist certification in Boulder, Colorado, and now I'm pursuing my, as you mentioned, my master's in clinical health and mental therapy. But on top of that, what I realize and what I want to pursue too is that certifications and intellectual knowledge, while it is necessary and needed, it also is the life experience, the clinical experience, the hurt, the passion, the suffering behind that, which perpetuates or catapults someone into learning more about those different areas, whether it be health, wellness, or a different topic. Early on, I've always loved to cook food. I remember being 5 years old and like mixing the baking soda and the flour, and my mom would get pissed because I use all these ingredients and it never tasted good. But in my eyes, food was a way to connect to people. It's a way to celebrate. It's even a way to cope, especially as adults when we use other foods to cope. And I found that really fascinating. As I went through college, I was dating a boyfriend who was super into heavy lifting and bodybuilding, and I went that route. And I thought, man, I really think it'd be cool if I, did train for a bodybuilding show and really looked, fit and petite. And as I did that, I realized how neurotic that was. That you're constantly weighing your food, you're constantly worrying about calories, you're planning your whole day around working out, and it became this really, really dark mind space that I didn't appreciate and didn't like. And I didn't want to live my day to day that way, especially as a woman. From that, I went and got my certified holistic nutritionist degree at Bowman College in Boulder, Colorado. And on top of that, I actually had chronic highs at the time. And I spent thousands of dollars looking for, the reason why. And instead of the doctor saying, hey, we don't know what's going on, they were kind of throwing the dart at any possible way, which my encounters with doctors have been, let's try this, let's try this, let's try this, rather than looking at the root cause, which is the area that I play in, not this black and white thinking. I went and got an allergy specialist who said that I had, who gave me cyclosporine, which is a medication to suppress your immune system. Therefore, you wouldn't have the reaction of the hives. So after that, I was like, well, what's going on here? Obviously, there's something that's initiating this. And the doctor was having me do lab work, once a week. And I said, hey, what's going on? Why am I doing lab work? And it was, well, this is really hard on your kidney. This is really hard on your liver. It could cause infertility. And it's like, we never had this dialogue. After that, I went and got my celiac test. I thought, well, maybe I'm allergic to something I'm eating. I was a negative for celiac, but on the food sensitivity test that I did, I was 99% allergic. So that really goes to show you that Western medicine is very yes or no diagnosis, when we really need to play in this gray area and think of it as a scale of green, yellow to red. And we're constantly migrating based on our level of stress, based on how we're eating, based on how we're working out. Because as you can imagine, some days you feel really good and some days you feel really bad. There may be months that way or years that way, and really getting back to that space where you know that you're doing the things for your highest good. So as I saw clients in that space, Boulder took me on as their nutritionist for the city of Boulder, and I helped them create some different programs. But I quickly realized that, hey, it'd be nice to have a psychology background, because we all know that we need to eat more vegetables, more fruits, work out more, sleep more, but we don't. And what's that underlying trauma piece? So now I'm really pursuing that psychological aspect and really understanding our mind and how we can revise those cognitive beliefs, why we self-sabotage, why we have the relationship with food that we do and why we can't implement these items to make sure that we are, you know, living our best lives and being our most authentic selves. In a roundabout way to answer your question.
Very awesome. Thank you for answering that question. And your story is amazing. Like just going through what you've been through with, I mean, how many of us have gone to the doctor over and over again, whether it's a Western medicine or Eastern medicine, and then finding the right approach to what our body needs. It can be so frustrating because what works for one person doesn't work for another person, like I went vegetarian for 1 whole year and it was great. Like I really enjoyed it, but my body, what I learned is that I didn't react the way that I saw these like supermodels that are like vegan. And I'm like, well, why don't I look like that? Why am I gaining so much weight? And it was
right.
I mean, I really wasn't, I figured, well, I'm eating enough, but I naturally went towards like the sugar and carbs. And I was thinking like, but I see vegans and they're so skinny and like their skin's glowing and mine wasn't, dude. I'm not even gonna lie. Like I was more tired than I wanted to admit. And I did it for also like animal rights reasons and
Certainly.
just humane stuff, and watched like a bunch of documentaries on Netflix. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm never eating meat again. Like just looking at how everything's processed, and it's crazy how a lot of things are connected. But yeah, like there's just so much that goes into all of that, and thinking like, why am I eating this way, or why am I reaching for sugar even though I know it's bad for me? So if you could, let's expand on that just a little bit more. And just
I'd love to.
yeah,
Yeah.
and just so people, oh, go ahead.
Yeah. So and that you bring up a very, very good topic. And so what's interesting is that it's, first of all, when we begin to compare ourselves and our diet to somebody else. So let's say, man, I saw someone do keto and they look fantastic, or I saw someone do veganism and they look great. What happens there naturally is that now we're comparing ourself and our body to someone else's body. And that gap is now getting bigger and bigger and bigger, when really we're trying to narrow that gap to be in full alignment with what we're eating, what we're doing. So it's really important that we begin to understand ourselves, our needs. There's different levels of eating, whether we're eating for health or for recovery, and why we're choosing that diet, so to speak. And I even would go as far to say that I don't necessarily like the word diet, because food is food and it's so dynamic. It's how we're nourishing ourselves. It's what we need to eat. And we tend to pick things based on non-proper education. And that's where I really like to share of, hey, this, why it makes sense for you based on what your needs. And we're constantly changing. So on top of that, I'll add, we've heard a lot of discussion that the gut is the second brain, but now most neurosurgeons and naturopathic doctors are saying the gut's actually the first brain, because there's more neurotransmitters in our gut than our actual minds. And that in the gut, we have 85% of our immune system. We make 95% of our serotonin, which is the precursor to depression and anxiety. So if we see a rise of depression or anxiety, we're really looking at the gut health. But on top of that, we really need to look at the gut structure and seeing how that is doing, why we're absorbing and digesting our sleep, our inflammation, and skin. So I'll explain that more in depth. If you can imagine your gut being like a very nice brick wall between your house and your neighbor's house. So think of it nice and tight like this. And when we're eating and digesting food, let's say we eat a banana, it comes in and nothing's leaking out because that brick wall is super nice. Well, what happens is when we have high cortisol, which is our stress hormone, if we are, let's say, eating foods that are not clean, meaning herbicides and pesticides, lots of sugar, maybe smoking, drinking tap waters, having heavy metals, living in today's world, because now we have such a higher level of toxicity, our gut becomes dysbiotic, which means leaky. And it's actually a syndrome called leaky gut. So what leaky gut now, what that means, a good metaphor for that is that your brick wall now looks very old, let's say janky, there's some bricks missing, and leaves and things are getting passed from your yard to your neighbor's yard. So now when you eat that banana, it comes in, instead of being nice and tight, it looks like this. And the banana will actually leak out into the bloodstream, and the body says, whoa, why is this to my bloodstream? I don't know what this is. Let's tag it as an invader. So now we have excess inflammation, excess cortisol. Our body feels it's in fight or flight because we don't know what this is. Therefore, we're not fully digesting and absorbing our food. So we might have a micromineral deficiency, which, for example, I can't correlate this, but depression and anxiety are really linked to the vitamins selenium and vitamin D. So if you can imagine, if we have a very dysbiotic gut or leaky gut, we can really start to cure these things by healing the gut and removing those foods, and how that correlates. And we've all heard the saying, you are what you eat. That's not necessarily true, because we are what we assimilate, meaning that you can have a beautiful and healthy diet. You can be vegan, you can do all these things, but if you're not fully digesting that, well, it really doesn't do you much good. And on top of that, food allergies and food sensitivities, it's one of my favorite tests to do, because we tend to think of food as good and bad. Let's say bad being chocolate or soy or gluten or dairy. When in reality, most of my clients, their sensitivities are blueberries, salmon, let's say eggs, chicken, things that they're eating every day. And what's cool is that the foods that we're most sensitive to are the foods that we're typically eating the most, because it causes that dopamine response, that feel good response. So it's almost like an alcoholic, like, oh, I want a drink that feels good. Oh, I want chicken that feels good. But we're making that gut leakier and leakier and leakier. Therefore, it kind of sets off the straw that broke the camel's back in a way, that now we have this whole totem pole of stress and cortisol. Cortisol is the king hormone in the body. Every single cell in the body has a cortisol receptor, whether it is your ovaries, whether it is your thyroid, whether it is your gut. Every single cell is being attacked when we have that high stress, whether that is a physical stress. So this is a really good topic too, is that physical stress could be, you know, a really hard workout. It could be running down the street from a robber. It could be skydiving, something very intense, or it could be emotional. Let's say we're worrying about finances. We're worrying about our kids who are not in school during this time. We're worrying about X, Y, and Z. A stress response is a stress response. And I think people, when I ask them, hey, on a scale of 1 to 10, how stressed are you? And in the moment, they're like, oh, I'm not stressed at all. I'm like, well, what about this, this, and this? And that gets manifested and held onto in our body. And that is constantly that cortisol drip. And so, I mean, I can talk about this all day. There's even more of a thing to go into that about adrenal fatigue, in that we typically have a stress response, we respond to it, and then we go back to our homeostasis level. When we have chronic stress, which is, you know, everything we're eating, everything we're ingesting, everything we're hearing, the media, worrying, working out, am I thin enough, whatever it may be, now instead of going back to that, hey, there's a stressor and I come back, we're living at this chronic stress level. So our adrenal glands that make the cortisol are now like, whoa, I'm so tired. I need a break. I need a rest. And then they go into failure. When the adrenal glands go into failure, that's when we see a lot of stored belly fat. That's where repressed emotions are. And then it begins to affect our sleep, other health issues, how we digest. So even heartburn, IBS. I mean, it really cascades into almost any condition you can think of. So I love to link back everything to the gut and really the cortisol and how we're dealing with that on both the nutritional side. Hey, what foods can we implement? And then looking at that mindset. Hey, why are we not showing up for ourselves? What beliefs do you hold to be true? And what beliefs do you hold to not be true? And the mind kind of, the wild part of this is that I had always thought if I had a good belief, I should hold on to that. But the reality is, if we have a good belief, we think something is so right, we're never going to revise that belief. So that's actually probably the one that's going to hold you back the most. So I'd work with clients on both those sets and utilizing both, you know, the mind, body, and spirit to make a plan for them, specifically for them.
Very good. And talk a little, can you expand a little bit more? Like you said, something about if we have a good belief, we tend to hold on to it, but that's, you're saying that's not good.
Yeah. So let's say a good example would be, I'm trying to think of one, like, oh, I communicate very well. I'm a good person or something like that. If I think that, I'm never going to change the way I communicate, because I think that's really good. So therefore, it may be detrimental because I'm not continuing to be like, well, maybe I could have changed it this way. So it's not negative, but it means that we're limiting ourselves from constantly adapting and growing. Whereas survival of the fittest is not who is the strongest and most fit. It is who is the most fit for the environment. So it's changing that positive belief to constantly being like, well, how can we tweak that to really leverage that to ensure that we're doing our best every day, every time we can, and constantly evolving. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Like it's like believing that this is good. I'm doing the best that I can. I'm already set. Like there's nothing wrong. So then it creates kind of a closed mind around what life could look like. I know that as I've done, not to the level that you do with nutritional coaching, but like, you know, helping people do like 30-day cleanses and like taking out processed food and coaching them through that. And then, using products that I recommend for cleanses. And I was just sharing with you, like, I just went to the grocery store for one of my friends / clients, and then went to her home and help her meal prep and do all those things. Because in the beginning, it is very hard. And for us, like looking at like meal prepping and just eating healthy, I mean, did that come naturally to you from the very beginning?
Good question. So it's interesting because I don't think anything comes naturally to anyone. It's something that, that is fun for me. And I think the more that you learn about it and the more that you see how it impacts your well-being or your health or your personal life or how you feel, the more likely you're inclined to do it. And I also think the mindset around it of like, oh, I have to meal prep, and like, well, that doesn't sound fun at all, right? So what are some ways where you can implement it? Maybe I bring a girlfriend over, maybe, whatever it is, to make sure that you're having fun doing those things that you may not like as much, but it's going to be a continual and constant evolution and practice to doing things that make you feel well-rounded and whole. And I love doTERRA's products because they're so easy and simple to use in everyday life, whether it's diffusing or ingesting or anything. And so I think it's really daunting for people to be like, I have to do all this change overnight. And it's like, no, it's taking me, my lifetime to get to where I am. And I continue to do that. And just to make small steps, because you don't need to see the whole staircase. You just need to see the first stair and keep going up.
Yes.
Just little changes, guys, every day.
Man, extending the olive branch. You don't have to see the whole staircase. I mean, I swear, I think between you and I, we could start like a quote company, even though it would be like all these other quotes.
Hallmark cards.
Seriously. Yeah, totally. They'd be the best ones. Because quotes are awesome. Analogies are great. Like, it's just a way to describe
explain it, different perspective. Totally. I'm with you.
Yes. So you have a program coming up, because, if I didn't know, and I still, some of the stuff you say, some of the stuff that you talk about, it's still a little bit up here, right? A little bit like I'm tracking, but that's because I've been in the health and wellness field, and then I was in healthcare, right, for a total of 6 years so far. So I can kind of understand where you're coming from, where you're going, what's happening. But you you take a holistic healthcare approach, right, for helping people. And you have an event coming up here soon that we would love to be able to have more people come to. Like, I really want to go to this event. I'm hoping to bring a few friends with me. And can you tell us a little bit more about that? And we'll recap at the end, but just kind of like okay, let's do it.
Guys, I do apologize. I talk so fast. This stuff is so interesting. I'm like, so damn good. So if you have any questions at the end, I can definitely circle back around to that. But and I use holistic nutrition as well as functional labs or functional medicine in addition, or working with your doctor or therapist or just one-on-one. We really make the plan custom for you. And I'd also say this with, I think there's a big stigma that holistic medicine or nutrition has to be expensive and it adds up. And it's like, I really want to work with people to help empower and educate. And that's not my main goal. I really want to make sure that I do my part. So there's definitely a way that we can communicate and work around that as well. The program, though, is called Beast to Beauty. It's July 12th, Sunday from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. So it's 9 beautiful hours. You can leave if you're like, this is so much. We got great snacks. We've got a guided meditation. We've got a biomat. So for those who don't know what a biomat is, it's actually this padding with infrared heat that actually NASA space astronauts use it to help deflect the EMFs, which is electromagnetic frequencies, and to help with the mitochondrial turnover and detox. So you'll have a chance to get on that. I'll be working with one of my favorite practitioners named Jenny Adams, who does biodynamic trauma breathwork release. So that's a mouthful. But it's essentially how we can rid of trauma through the body that we manifest, and how I talked about that cortisol and how we compress. And a lot of times we say, like, let's be positive, let's do this, which is great. But I think there's a whole false hope around, like, if I think positive, it's going to be positive, when really I wanted to say, hey, I have this negative thought and I want you to see this and deal with this so that you can allow yourself to be positive. Because we're trying to think positive and we're holding ourselves back with this, whether it's 1% or 10% or 15 or 90% belief of this negative. We can't go forward. We can't unlearn to learn if we still have that harvested. So this whole workshop's going to be around that: trauma, cortisol, gut health, It's going to be around body image, especially as women, detoxification. It's going to be kind of an open floor too. The last hour will be questions and answers. But it's going to be really amazing. And I designed this workshop because this is one that I wish I had taken 5 years ago, of how much I was hurting. So I'm taking all my pain points, as well as Jenny. She's got years and years, decades in this kind of industry. So it's going to be a very well-rounded out seminar, and it's going to be beautiful. It's in Denver, and it will be great. So if anyone's interested or would like to come, today is actually the last day for early bird registration. You can either shoot me a text or go to www.thespiritroot.com/beastofbeauty2020, or just shoot me an email too at the email address below.
Very cool. Very, very cool. I think that's something that it's like, we think of, like, let's talk about self-care. So when we think of well, not we, but a lot of people think of self-care, they think of like manis and petties and like getting a massage and laying at a beach, or laying it next to a lake or whatever, because we don't live at a beach here in Colorado. And I don't know, man, I think self-care is more about attending things like this and educating yourselves and empowering ourselves to understand how to fuel our bodies and our minds and be around women who are going to lift us up. Because when someone thinks of well, I don't even know what meditation is, or that, what holistic nutrition is, or anything like that, and they're thinking, I don't want to go into a room full of women who are educated in that area and feel intimidated. And I just want to say, that's like not truth. The truth is to go be around people who are further ahead in life than you in certain areas that you wish you were further ahead in. Because when you're the least educated or least successful person in the room, you're in the right room, right? Mm-hmm. Because you're going to learn, you're going to grow, you're going to be like, oh, well, that's possible. And you're going to see like these people are just totally normal people. They just decided to make a couple changes in their lives. And then it came into another few changes and another few changes. And before you know it, you have a tribe of women who believe in similar morals and values and practices in life that you do. So I don't know why I went on that tangent, but that just seemed like the right thing to do.
No, I love that. And I have a lot of people ask me, like, Haviland, what's your version of self-care? And in regards to the manis and petties and all of those things, yes, that's super nice to do. But I also, to go further on that, it's kind of a distraction, right? Like, these are things that are nice to do and to check out, but we're not really looking inwards and not really doing this deeper work. Whereas workshops like these are that deep self-care, because I firmly believe we're trying to, deal with our stuff now. And if we don't, it's going to come back later and later. And when we change one part of the working system, we're fundamentally changing the whole part of it. So if we're hurting inside or have anxiety or bad digestion or poor sleep, if we can make that, even slightly better for you, well, man, now you may have more energy and maybe at work, and now you can be with your partner more and have fun and be energetic. And it really changes. And it's just those small pivots where you're doing it so much that now you've made a whole, 180. And the thing too is that we're constantly learning and evolving. And while it may be intimidating to be around, new kind of topics and things like this, it's also opening your mind and asking questions. And really, if you feel stuck or unmotivated or, foggy, or especially with everything going on, it's like, what do you have to lose here? It's a really, really big point to even network, meet new friends, to reach out and, say it's going to be a safe space. So I'd encourage anyone that has questions in the meantime, we can definitely chat offline or one-to-one too, because it's going to be, and am I allowed to cuss? Because I'm like, it's going to be incredible shit.
Yeah, man. Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's going to be as well. So can we dive into a little bit more of like how you became who you are today, and like who you are as a woman, as a mother, as a wife, and things like that?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I've always had this quest kind of way of like, what else is out there, and I want to learn more, and I want to be the best me, so to speak. But in doing so, I also realized that I felt the need to prove and produce and do and all these things. And I'm like, well, crap, what's that about, right? And why can't I just be in ease? We kind of live in this negative evolution in society that if you don't sleep a lot, you must be a hard worker. And if you are really thin, you must be healthy. And these kind of backwards way of thinking that I really wanted to deep dive into these dysfunctional beliefs in a sense. And as a mom now of 3, I've got 1 stepson and 2 of my own. That was also a really big leverage of like, hey, wake up. You've got people to show up for. And I know that if I'm not showing up for the way that, my parents didn't show up for me or how I needed to be raised, that's going to be trickle down and affecting to them. So it's been really, it's a big responsibility, but I'd also say it's a big responsibility to be who you want to be. Otherwise you'd already be it. Right. And so that for me is like, actually the best way to put this is when I was a little girl, I remember a few people in my life that I was like, oh my God, they're so cool. Like they're amazing. And if you can sit there and say to yourself, like, that girl is so cool, and you don't feel that way, it's like, well, that's a big disconnect. And that's what this is all about, is like getting to that, like, damn, I got it. And maybe for some that doesn't mean proving and producing. Maybe it means X, Y, and Z. It's different for everyone, but figuring out that for you is why I feel the need to share. And I've suffered so many different things in my life, whether it's been eating disorders, I had an alcoholic mom growing up, bad boyfriends, you name it. And so really going through of like, hey, this is my pain. Maybe you can or can't relate to it, but I want to hear your pain so we can share and we can learn and grow as women and evolve as women.
So growing up with a mom who was an alcoholic, and then again, like you said, like going through bad relationships, and now you have 3 kids under 5. You're married, you're going to school for your master's degree, and then you have your own business. Like, did you ever think that you'd be like, did you just like grow up knowing that you were going to have this amazing grit and tenacity and determination to like conquer the world? Or how do you do all of this?
I remember 5 years ago being in tears, calling my mom, being like, I don't know what to do. I don't have a job. I don't know what I'm going to do. Like, just lost puppy. And that's kind of the thing too, is like, the busy you are, and I should say the busier you are with the things that you like to do, the more effective and efficient and fun it is. I do not feel overwhelmed. I'm sure, at times my kids maybe, but it's like, if you can get into that niche and really lean into those fun things, like, I love the saying, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life, when really it's, if you love what you do, you'll work every day in your life, because it's so amazing. But and it doesn't feel, it's really interesting. It doesn't feel like grit to me. It feels like figuring out what you are inspired by. And that's where I love to help people in that niche too, kind of like that life coaching area, is that you can do this and more. And we are the ones that are putting these beliefs and self-sabotaging that that's overwhelming, or that's too much, or it's too expensive, or I don't have the time, or whatever it is. Because I had all those thoughts. I actually have a girlfriend who really wanted to get her therapy license 4 years ago. And we were talking yesterday, and she's like, oh, I still want to do that. And here I am, I've 2 months left. And it's like, the time's going to pass anyway. Do it. Do it, right? Whatever it is, just go do it. And having the imperfect action is always better than no action, always. So I kind of fail forward and just kind of keep going. And if you mess up, great. Now you know what you don't want, because you can't have what you don't want until you know what you do want. And it's kind of like falling in love in a sense, is that you can't have like this most amazing, inconvenient love if you're not willing to have the same amount of on the other side of, being having your heart broken and shattered. And you have to give equally on both of those spectrums. And I'm happy to say, my partner's super supporting, and because I was willing to be vulnerable. And that's the hardest piece, is like getting that stuff out and having your true veil of like, this is what I'm going to do, and doing that and not riding the fence.
Like, just kind of go all in and be willing to like test the waters on what's going to work for you, and find that passion and that joy. And I mean, have you ever, you said, there's challenging days, or feeling overwhelmed, or maybe your kids feel overwhelmed, but has there been a time where where you questioned yourself if you were on the right path in the last 5 years of starting this journey to get where you are today?
Yeah, it's so funny. And I'll boil it down to, of course, we all do that, it's human, but it comes down to, if the thought feels good, that's all you need to know. If the thought feels bad, don't do it, because intellectually we can rationalize anything. I can think, oh, I'm gonna eat this cookie because of X, Y, and Z, or oh, I shouldn't could do that, and that's not the right path because of X, Y, and Z. And it's really getting out of your head and into your heart, and knowing too that the universe essentially wants it to work out for you. Like, it wants it to work out for you, but we're the ones who are like, oh, you know, that doesn't feel comfortable. And I think there's a very distinct difference between being uncomfortable and not wanting to do something or not feeling right. Right. And so I think we need to get get that shit out, so to speak, too. And it's going to be much easier to make decisions. It's kind of like watching a TV show and if you're like, oh, this show sucks. What do? You change the channel and starting to make decisions like, it's just like, or it's like gut feeling. And you just do that. And that's as simple as you can make it.
Totally, man. It's the channel that we're watching, like what channel are we watching?
Yeah. I mean, why do you think they call it TV programming, right? We're being downloaded, and this whole thing is about unlearning to learn.
Yeah. And have you ever thought about how it's called television? Tell-a-vision?
Oh my gosh. See? You're blowing my mind now.
I know. It's like, think about it. Like they're telling us a vision, and there's a documentary called out of the shadows.org or out of shadows.org. And it's I mean, who knows, this whole podcast might get taken down just because I'm talking about it, but like it's a little conspiracy-y, but it's about like television and why they created Hollywood and to help people to turn their minds away from the war that was going on at the time and to help Hollywood tell a different story, right?
Totally. It's like and that's the thing too, is like even the term conspiracy, it's like what, because the thought's different, it's a conspiracy. And what happened to our freedom of speech? And that's the thing too, is that we are told like, oh, I can't say that, it's bad. So now we don't speak up when we need something for ourselves and it really comes down to, selfishness, or things have two subjects, the wanted and not wanted. And we tend to think of as being selfish as, oh, they do things for them or they think of themselves first. But being selfish is also being selfish enough to care how you feel, meaning that you can communicate from your most authentic space and not being afraid to do so.
Absolutely. And not being afraid to do so. And do you have any tips for someone that, they're just kind of stuck on that one channel and they just don't know how, like, it's kind of like when let me back up a little bit. So we're talking about some pretty in-depth kind of things depending on who's listening. And
right.
So when we are stuck in that space where we're just telling ourselves the same story over and over again, I'm not good enough, why even bother? I've messed up in the past, I'm gonna mess up again anyways. Like, so, I'm gonna play small, right? And they're just like stuck on that loop. And maybe they just don't realize that we all have the clicker in our hand.
Totally.
What if they're looking at the clicker and it just looks like a bunch of Japanese, they don't know Japanese. Like, how does someone look down at the clicker and actually change the channel to a more positive message coming in? Do you have any tips for that?
Great question. So, the biggest thing here is being aware, because if you're not aware, then everything's just kind of, coming. And I love to say, we have the subconscious and the conscious mind. And I ask people, which one is more powerful? People typically say the conscious mind, because we are making executive decisions. We're saying, oh, I'm going to go get some water, or I'm going to go do this or whatever, and pay this bill. When really the subconscious mind is the one that's like, you're putting on your jeans in the morning, like, oh, I feel a little fat, or she's looking at you like that, or you're not good enough for this job. And it's that voice that's coming in, but we're not the ones saying it, right? And let's say if we really thought that we were thin and good and successful, do you think we would have the thought of, oh, these jeans are tight? We wouldn't have them, because we don't believe that. And it's really about slowing down to figure out where you're triggered. And so I would suggest that when someone's feeling overwhelmed or having a negative thought, and if you can be aware of like, oh, and actually this is the challenge, is for 30 days, every time you're mean to yourself, I want you to stop and say, fascinating. I was just in judgment of myself. And it's really crazy, because the first day I did that, it was like hundreds of times plus. They say we have approximately 90,000 thoughts per day, with 85% of those being negative. And I guarantee you cannot remember the first 10 thoughts you had this morning, right?
Oh,
like we're constantly doing this. And so if you can, first of all, say, hey, that was a mean thought, like first do that. And then after a few days, or once you get more aware of that, being like, that was a not nice thought. Let's see here. Hey, thought, like that's really uncomfortable. Like, why did that happen? Why is that occurring? Do I actually believe that? Oh, I don't. Let me rephrase that. And it's being that awareness. And the more that you can do that, the faster that these, it's like a slideshow. Like that's not a good picture. This is a good picture. And it's just easier to do it, but it takes that initial really intense awareness, that mindfulness in a sense. Does that
It
make
really
sense?
does. Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely right. Because if we can't, it's all about, they talk about this in network marketing a lot, which is 90% of the business is in your head, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like what's going on between here, and then the rest of it can really just flow. It's like you're floating on it, right? Because the programming's on the right program, right? Bless you, buddy. And it's yeah, there's some really good truth in what you're saying there. So yeah, okay. So let's I have a couple of that call them kind of like fire rapid questions, but before we jump into that, is there anything else that somebody should know around what you specialize in, or anything else that we've kind of touched on that you want to dive a little bit deeper in?
Yeah, I'd say that I love the gut. I think it just transcends into absolutely every aspect of our health. I typically like to work with clients on what I call a 7-pillar system. So it's much like Maslow's hierarchy, where you can't put a roof on a house that doesn't have a strong foundation. So let's say if you have a thyroid issue or a reproduction issue or heartburn, like we can definitely target that, but it's going to keep reoccurring if we don't fix the root cause. So I really work with clients on getting to that, hey, this is the root cause and this is why. But I do a lot of different specialties, including, gut health issues, poor sleep, inflammation, athletic stuff, disordered eating and eating disorders, which are very different. Disordered eating, in my opinion, is one of the biggest, epidemics in the United States. And disordered eating could look like, waking up and feeling like I'm going to seize the day with my diet, but at the end of the day, you feel really defeated, or like going on the scale and not liking the number, or restricting food, or binging in food, or feeling like, oh, they're going to judge me if I order the French fries. I mean, it's these little things that add up to our food wealth and our food script. And our food script is essentially, if you were to sit down and write a book about your relationship with food, like it from the time you were 2 to the time you were however old, like it'd be kind of a crazy story. And how you got to that point and really understanding that. Whereas your food wealth is everything you believe to be true or not true about food. So it could be, veganism is good or bad, or this is right or this is wrong, and really diving and peeling those back to be like, any information is good information, and it's going to change, because when you think you've mastered a subject, to go another layer deeper to question what you've mastered is really important. So it's, I empower my clients so that they don't need me, so that they feel educated. So it's not a, quick fix. It's like, here's the stuff that you can do to be gung-ho yourself, and I'm always going to be there for them throughout the course of this. So
that's really powerful. Like the best coaches are the ones who want you to be able to graduate from their program. And I think you told me that the other day, right? And that's kind of what you're saying right now, like being able to, hey, I got you, but I'm not just going to give you the fish. I'm going to go teach you how to catch fish. Like
totally. Go out in the real world, and and it's because it's like someone's going to come up and it's going to be hard, and like, can you navigate that? And you definitely can, right? And it's having those tools in your pocket, and coming back if and when you need it. But it's just like and this is the thing, we all know this stuff. It's deep down, it's these thoughts, and we know this. We just need to be retaught in a sense and understood it, because we've never had the opportunity, in grade school or college, of these nutritional courses, right? Like, where do we learn this from?
Right. Well, and having someone that really can hold your hand and help you along the way. And just I've never met anyone that does what you do, where it's not just the brain therapy, and it's not just physical therapy, like literally, or nutritional therapy. You're doing everything. And I'm sure there's like a whole nother conversation that we could have around, you had talked about, I know you talked about chakras. You talked a little bit about it. And when I say you talked about this, like when we first initially talked, which was only like yesterday. So there's that. But like chakras, and then the spiritual realm, and like different beliefs that we have around so much that goes into it. So I think we all have a lot to learn from you, girl. And that,
you're so sweet.
I'm
so I have a lot to learn from you.
I don't know about that, other than, together we can bring our gifts and talents together, and our education and experiences and backgrounds. And your course or the seminar that you're going to be doing, you said it was July what?
July 12th. It's a Sunday.
July 12th. So on a Sunday, like, that's going to be huge. Like that's a big deal. And just just I know how much work it takes to put on a seminar like that. And not that I've actually done it, but I've been a part of, planning seminars or planning events and stuff like that. So it is a lot of work, and it's going to be amazing. So couple of things. So what is the most embarrassing mistake you have made as a mom and that you have made in business?
Good question. As a mom, I think I remember the first doctor's appointment with my daughter. They're like, "All right, mom, come over here. All right, mom, come over here, mom." And I was like, I'm the mom?" It's like I'm somebody's mom, and it was this huge realization of like, oh my god, it's me. They're calling me. It's like I was looking for my mom in a sense. So I think that was kind of like, oh, wake up. It's like it's your time to be a mom. And then as far as business goes, I've had some crazy stories there of it's funny because I'm trying to remember one off the top of my head. They don't seem like failures. They're more humorous in a way. And I think that's important when things don't go right, that it's, can be, I guess. I remember my very, very first client that I had, she came for weight loss. And this is a perfect example of what I do. She came for weight loss, and 30 minutes into the session, I'm just right out of my certification. She shares that when she was 3 years old, she was kidnapped, placed in an outhouse, all this trauma, all this stuff, and that she had actually gotten the toxicity from the outhouse in her legs and this whole thing. And I'm sitting there like poker face of like, oh my God. And that's kind of like what ignited of, hey, ethically and understanding someone from a whole, you need to go get more education on this, because really the universe is showing me like, yep, this is what you want to deal with. So here's a really crazy case. And that really gave me more tools of like understanding and really bringing in other therapists. If I don't know if I don't think I'm serving you, I'm definitely going to give you a good referral and help you out and guide you. So that was a good lesson for me to understand that.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've all been in those situations, maybe not all of us, but well, yeah, where we're way over our head and we realize that it's kind of like, okay, we are going to pull as much as we can from my database and work with that. And then we'll come back to this. We'll come back to this next time. Yeah. Session number 2. Okay. Awesome. So, and then what is your favorite essential oil and what do you use it for?
Oh man, okay, that's so tough because I'm like an essential oil crazy person. I just love using them. I love the lemon because, especially during the summer, we should all be drinking more water and we don't. And if you get really bored, add some lemon drops or lime drops first thing in the morning. It's super good for your liver to detoxify. The lemon drops are super good to cook with fish in the summer, so you can actually add to the salmon or grill because it pulls out the heavy metals from the ocean because our oceans are so filled with plastic. So that's another fun tip. I love the On Guard because as far as, everything going on and cleaning and smelling good, I have that almost every day. That's diffusing. Lavender, of course. Clove. I actually cracked my tooth last week and I couldn't get into the dentist. Put some clove oil. I mean, anything you want. I can it's just amazing. I don't have a favorite. The digest sounds really good for, if you have an upset stomach or if you feel bloated. It's all amazing. So everything's great. There's not one product that I've been disappointed in.
I agree, girl. The more I learn about them, and I remember when, like, my mom been giving me essential oils for 10 plus years, and they would just sit in the drawer, and they just sat there. Or maybe I'd use them to make the house smell pretty, and that was the extent of it. And then, gift of desperation came around, and it was given to me, and then it worked, and I was like, wow, well, I wonder what else all these other things can do. And now I have a hard time not spending $100 a month on essential oils and supplements.
Totally. I mean, you can drink it, you can eat it, you can cook with it, you can use it in your house, you can use it to clean. I'm like, what doesn't this do?
I know. Amazing. I tell people, I used to see all these women post there's an essential oil for everything. I'm like, oh my God, shut up. No, there's not. There's not. There's an essential oil for 2 things. Make your house smell good and make yourself smell good. And that's it. There's nothing else they do. You guys are nuts. And I was just so uneducated about it. And then, now I'm like, I think the only thing oils don't do is bring you back to life. Like, I think that's the only thing. I just haven't found when someone's going through something mentally or physically, I'm like, oh, great. Here's, I'm like, do you have blah, blah, blah? Or do you want me to send you something? And I'm like, oh my God, like, stop.
No,
So
it's so true. Remember during my pregnancy, I was very nauseous, and that peppermint oil on the forehead and then topically, like morning sickness doesn't exist when you have doTERRA's peppermint. Like,
it's true.
it's
I know. They say that 1 drop of doTERRA peppermint oil is equivalent to 28 cups of peppermint tea. Can you believe that? Boom.
Boom, boom.
Yeah. And they're
Sold.
50, yeah, they're 50 to 70 times more powerful than herbs. So yes, herbs serve a very important piece in supporting our body and the functions. So I think they work really beautifully together with like herb therapy and also like essential oil therapy. Like together, it's really, really cool. Really, really cool.
And definitely too, to piggyback on that, like I have a lot of clients that take pills of things, and I usually suggest oils or powders because when you take a pill, it only breaks open and absorbs where it breaks open. So it could even be like the colon or large intestine, you don't get all that benefit, whereas you're getting it in the esophagus, the stomach. And even like the lemon, I love lemon water, going back to that, but I don't want to be squeezing a lemon every day, you know, and it's just like 1 drop literally lasts you like forever. And it's amazing.
Yeah.
You can do so much stuff with it.
Yeah. And like citrusy
Citrus Bliss?
Citrus Bliss, but citrus fruits also are they're high in they're very acidic, right? So for our teeth and for our stomach. So with essential oils, they're not acidic because they come from the rind, right? So they're not as my dentist would always be like, Alex, you got to stop drinking the lemon in your water. And I'm like, but it tastes so good. And like, I like having good tasting water. And he's like, yeah, but your teeth, even though they look good, girl, these
your
teeth
are so white.
Oh, nice. So are yours, girl. Give me your teeth. This is
missing. I don't know where they went.
I'll know where to go. Actually, I won't because I don't even know where he lives, so I'm kind of screwed. You know, like
you'll email me at green@rootandramp.com.
Yeah, I will. Like, sorry, you've been disconnected. Phone's disconnected. I don't know where she went. That's cool. So yeah, it's a big deal, and being able to protect your teeth, protect everything else going on. So what is your favorite book?
Oh man, that's such.
I know.
I'm also one of those people that I'm reading 500 books at the same time, but I get to like the 10th page and then like I'm one of those. But I really like motivational self-help kind of books.
Yeah.
There's one I'm reading right now called The Body Keeps Score. And that's really interesting, and basically about any trauma. There's, you know, big T trauma and little T trauma, whether it's some comment some boy said to you when you're in 4th grade or a divorce or something big, that we do keep track of that on a cellular level, going back to that cortisol talk. So that's a really, really good read. I love Michael Pollan. I just love kind of all those books. The Gabrielle Bernstein, she's a really good author. Yeah, there's a lot of good books. I can't name just one, I think. Oh, a really good book, actually. The number 1 book you should read is called The Whole Detox by Dr. Deanna Mindrick. And that actually explains all these different compartments of, I hate the word detox, but it's like detoxing everything, whether it's the food, the mind, the body, and it incorporates all these different layers. And that was kind of what threw me into holistic nutrition. So that's a really good one.
Very, very cool. I'm reading a book. Well, okay, I was, and then I kind of put it down. Like, yeah, I am reading a book. It's taking me 2 years, but I'm reading a book about detoxing by a woman in California, and she talks about, you know, eat like it's okay to eat meat and make sure like you're getting it from like a good source, but like try to eat it more towards the end of the day, because if you think about it, we have flat teeth. Okay. So this is totally off topic from books. And I know that you only have your mom watching Sawyer or any other of your, 10,000 children 3 minutes ago. So how are we doing on time? Just to double check.
I've got probably a few more minutes. But we're
okay. Just a few more minutes. Okay. Yeah. So just real quick, just to hear your thought on this. So dinosaurs. Okay. Dinosaurs. They have the plant eaters, the herbivores, right? They eat, is that an herbivore? Someone that eats plants?
Yeah, herbivore. Yep, herbivore, omnivore, and then what's the drawing a blank? What's the one with both of them?
I have no idea. Us, humanivore.
Yeah. What is that? Now it's gonna bug me. Keep talking. Yeah. I'll figure this out.
So we have flat teeth, right? And dinosaurs that have flat teeth, they primarily ate plants. And then you have like saber-tooth tiger that had like the sharp teeth, and they ate. That was because they're designed to eat meat. Well, saber-tooth tigers and other, meat eaters, they also have stomachs that can handle. They produce more acid to be able to break that down. Plant eaters don't. They don't have as much acid, and it's actually like it takes the body a lot more energy to be able to digest meat, right, and heavier foods. Mm-hmm. So people might be like, well, I'm really super tired and I don't know why. Like, I'm tired all the time. And then we look, okay, I'm sure you're asking, like, what food are you eating? And it's because, and from my understanding, I want to hear yours too. It's because our body is using so much energy to digest that food, right? So when we eat, in this book, going back to this, and this is kind of where I started getting this from, is when we eat more like plants, so whether it's, salad or fruits or veggies throughout the morning and as far as we can throughout the day, then we have more energy because our body is not spending so much, our body's not spending so much energy digesting that food. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And it would go more into also the glycemic index and then the availability of how the person's digesting. So what's crazy about what you ate, let's say if you ate oatmeal for breakfast, that affects your mood, your blood sugar, everything for the next 72 hours. So when someone, let's say, they eat a really greasy cheeseburger and they feel tired afterwards, that's actually going to be your food hangover for 3 days. And so really making sure that we're balancing the blood sugar by having meals that are well-rounded. So going back to that bowl of oatmeal, if you have oatmeal, well, that's a really starchy, high glucose meal. So you have high glucose, therefore high insulin to get that glucose in. And every reaction has an equal and opposite reaction. So you have a high intake, well, now you have a low valley. And that's like, I'm super tired, that 2 p.m. crash. I want something starchy or sugary to get back up. And so if you can make your meals more balanced with, let's say, now you have oatmeal with some blueberries, with some chia seeds, with some nut butter, like you've got the fat, you've got the fiber. So animal protein too, you do need a higher pH, and that's where it's typically linked to more of the heartburn items, because people think that heartburn is caused by too high of stomach acid, when in fact it's caused by too low of stomach acid. So what happens is your lower esophageal sphincter, which is like a little rubber band, when it's too low, it relaxes, so it opens up. Therefore, you feel that stomach acid. When the stomach acid's too low, your food's sitting there, especially meat, and that kind of perpetuates it. So increasing stomach acid would be a huge advocator for eating animal-based things. But I'd say looking at very, very heavily plant-based meals and then having meat if you needed to with some, things that can help digest. And then I just found out it's herbivore, carnivore, and omnivore.
Herbivore, carnivore, and
omnivore. Omnivore is when they eat both.
Okay, and carnivore is the one we were looking like. That's the meat one. Okay, absolutely. Okay, couple more questions, then we're done. We will be completed. So, what is your favorite movie?
Oh man, I'm kind of messed up, and I like the psychotic thrillers, like the ones that are like. So I really like Shawshank Redemption. I love Inception. I love what's the one where the super hot guy's on the island? He's in jail. Leonardo DiCaprio. Anybody?
Yeah, I actually don't follow those movies as much, so I wouldn't know.
Nocturnal Animals is another really good one. Prisoner is another good one. I love stuff that really makes you think and that's twisted and dark. Like if you watch Ozarks on Netflix.
I watched a little bit of it. Yes.
I love stuff like that. I'm all about drug lords, like murders, and I don't know. I love stuff like that.
Like, what is gonna happen next? I'm like over here, like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god! Like, why am I even watching this? Like, I'm stressed out. My cortisol levels are going through the roof. Like,
oh, I'm like, bring it on.
Bring it on. Okay, good. So that's awesome. That you're into that like adrenaline junkie psychotic person that you are.
I know. I mean, I've been skydiving. My favorite holiday is Halloween. Like, I don't know what's wrong with me.
Oh, that's good. Halloween's actually my birthday. So
Oh, is it really? I will not forget that then.
just saying, yeah. It's a good one. When's your birthday?
Holiday.
When's your birthday?
Oh, December 13th. I was born on Friday the 13th.
Wow. Okay, so equally as cool, man. Equally as cool because they're both like creepy, you know?
Witchy, yeah.
Yeah. All right, and then what is your big dream? What is the impact you want to make? What is the one thing that you want to be remembered for when people are going to talk about you at your funeral?
I would like to remember as someone that I don't want to say went above and beyond, but I'm of like she's always there for you. Like if you need me, I will be there for you regardless of if you're a stranger or if you're not. Like I want to help people. You know, growing up, we've all done things we're not proud of, whether it's like saying something mean to a girlfriend. And it's like when I realize, oh, I did that because I was hurting. Like people don't do mean things because they want to. There's some underlying reason. And I want to help show people that, you know, it's good to be good to other people and that we can all rise up instead of tearing each other down. And my like big dream, I think, would be either to write a cookbook or write a book or maybe mesh those of kind of these topics and easy but fun meals. I think that's kind of my big dream, and I'll definitely get that done sometime in my lifetime.
Definitely. Cool, man. Well, thanks for answering those random, crazy questions. And thank you so much for sharing an hour of your time with us. This has been really good. And you guys, if you want to contact Haviland. I call you Havilande, and I know that's not.
Call me whatever you like. Call me Haviland, Havi, whatever you want. Yeah, whatever feels good.
So you can contact. I'm going to call you Javi. You can contact Javi.
That sounds so chic. I love it.
I love it too. It's very like, yeah, bohemian kind of, you know,
bougie, yeah.
Bougie, yeah. So you can contact her either by texting or calling her. Her phone number is 402-612-1009. You can email her at green@rootandremedy.com or go to www.nutritionworksofcolorado.com and you can look at their team and you can click on her beautiful picture and it's Javi Lodge, but it really says Havilande Lodge, which is not how you pronounce her name, but you know.
It's a weird name for sure.
How do you say it? How do you say the whole thing?
And now I'm like, how do I say it? It's Haviland. Haviland, yeah.
Haviland Lodge. It's an amazing name. You know, medical school, I took a medical terminology, obviously, because we all had to. And it was kind of like really funny. Like I was almost like the comedian because when there were new words that we were learning and they'd be like, well, let's actually have Alex, how do you think you got to say it? And I'm like, guys,
stop.
Like F off. Okay. I don't want to answer that, but it was funny. Because if there's a wrong way to pronounce something, I can do that.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too. I love it.
For sure, girl. Well, I appreciate you. Thank you for being a rock star.
Thank you for having me. It was wonderful to see your beautiful face again. And yeah, thank you so much, guys. It was very nice to share this.
Yes. Okay, I'm going to end the broadcast and then we'll hop off and then we'll wrap up.
Sounds good.
Okay, cool. Give me just a second here.